Rollcage is a futuristic style racing game that was developed by a crowd known as Attention to Detail and published by Psygnosis for both the PlayStation and the Microsoft Windows PC in 1999. And this game focuses on not only just futuristic racing, but it also has combat elements to it as well. And one of the main unique selling points of this game was the use of its very robust physics engine, as the game for its time was considered to be among some of the most visually impressive racing games seen on the PlayStation, but it had many great features and use of various aesthetics. Not only did it have fantastic looking environments that could change between day and night cycles, and the graphics were superb looking for their time, but it was the physics and the control systems that made full use of various aspects, especially with the explosions, as they were some of the most impressive elements within the game, and even more so in most games that have been seen on the PlayStation during that time. The game would also feature an original soundtrack from artists such as Fatboy Slim, among other known artists. So the game had mass appeal back in the day, and for many it was a very suitable alternative to the very popular Wipeout series, as the whole PlayStation aesthetic, especially during the early days of the system, the one thing the PlayStation was really well known for and that done really well was the fact is that it had a whole futuristic vibe to the console and just to the whole element that surrounded the console, and that element did manage to continue on well into the PlayStation's lifespan. And even with this game being released, there would be a sequel with Rollcage Stage 2 again, which would release for the PlayStation and the Windows PC and would capitalise on the success of the original, but would also tweak a lot of elements and improve upon many of the game's aspects, while also making the game faster overall in terms of sense of speed. But that doesn't take away anything from the use of the original game. It is a phenomenal game in its own right. I have had many subscribers actually reach out to me wanting me to do a video on this, so I said it's about time that I get round to doing it, and it is quite rightly so, because even for myself personally, going back to play this game, I originally played this as part of a demo. It was on part of one of the UK monthly demo magazines, and now you can only play as one track, and I think you could only, from what I remember, you could only do one lap of the demo, but still I remember being blown away by how visually impressive it was. The great use of dynamics, the controls are very sensitive and they are quite fiddly. If you're not really sure of what you're doing, and if you're not used to racing games, you probably will have a hard time getting into this, but it's one of those games that you have to give it time. That's the whole key about Rollcage. It does, as you're playing the original game, when you do decide to opt in and play the full game, it's one of those games that it does give you somewhat of an early entry point that is suitable for beginners to get used to the controls and the whole dynamic of the game, but it does gradually improve or increase in difficulty the further you into the game you get. And believe me, this game does get difficult the further into it that you play, but that doesn't take away from it, because that's the fun element of it, because as you play through it, you unlock more features and you unlock more tracks to race on as well, and they range from anything like, say, on different planets such as Mars, even to modern day kind of like a futuristic city style environments, which is really, really cool. And not only do you have the use of weapons, but what is really awesome about Rollcage is that you're not set to any one particular path. You do have multiple hidden paths or secrets that you can find as you race to give you an advantage over your opponents. So it is a worthwhile title, and at the time, even though it did receive favourable reviews, while not be as high compared to some other racing games, but many magazines, even with the PC version, as it was highly praised for the graphics, and many people always stated that it is a perfect alternative to the Wipeout series. If you're looking for more futuristic racers, you won't go wrong with Rollcage, as it definitely takes many elements seen in Wipeout. The only difference is that you're racing on the ground rather than racing like with hovercrafts or in the air. But one of the unique aspects of Rollcage was the design of the vehicles, as they felt and looked more like a remote control car that you could literally flip over and it would still keep going. That's what it felt like. It had that twitchiness and that sense of speed that you would get from if you were playing, like, say, with a remote control car. So that's, I think, what appealed to many people as they played it back in the day. And this game and its sequel would also prove as the inspiration for the more recent Grip combat racing that would be seen on modern consoles such as the PS4 and PS5. And even though the game uses modern visuals, it took all of its reference from these original Rollcage games. And even that myself, I have played it because I own it and I play it the odd time on my PS5, and it's a good game in its own right, and it definitely is worth a try, especially if you're a fan of the Rollcage series. Grip is another good game to try it also. But all in all, it genuinely is a solid title. It's a worthwhile racer. For me, it's definitely one of the best racers on the system. It has great graphics, great functionality, and there's lots of replay value, being able to play on different difficulties, and you can unlock different tiers of tracks and various elements the more you play. And it's just a very challenging but a very fun game all the same. And I highly recommend, if you do want to play futuristic racers, or even if you are a fan of the Rollcage series, definitely worth a revisit in my book. And I would love to know your thoughts on Rollcage for the PlayStation if you have played it yourself, and if so, what do you think of it? Do you think this is a really good alternative to the Wipeout games also seen on the PlayStation? I'd love to hear whatever stories you have with this cool game, so be sure to share it down in the comments below. And if you have enjoyed this video, make sure to leave a like, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell to be updated of future videos. And if you would like to see other videos around other games similar to Rollcage, then you can check out the playlist here on screen to see more of those games in action, and keep those gaming memories alive.